The Democrats have given up on this district. I happen to come from a belief that you cede no ground. You don't just give up in a fight. You have to fight for every piece of soil you can.
Welcome to Independent Americans. Welcome to episode 528. I'm your host, Paul Rieckhoff, and it is Wednesday, May 20th. Around here, known as What the Fuck Wednesday.
What the fuck Wednesday? What the fuck Wednesday?
Because there is no shortage of reasons on this Wednesday to say, what the fuck? And the weather here in New York City, where I'm coming to you from, in New York City, USA, is happy. This is some happy weather. It is sunny and warm, and this city is happy because the Knicks pulled off a miracle comeback last night in the NBA playoffs. And today's artist of the day is Jesse Itzler. Why Jesse Itzler? Well, I'm going to try to play the clip that tells you the story right here, Chris, if we can.
Who better to come up with the idea for a theme song than a group of young, die-hard Knickerbocker fans?
Good morning to Jesse James. Now, you might not know his face, but you've probably heard his song.
Right, Lise. Go, New York, go, New York, go.
When this song played in the Garden for the first time, I flipped out. I couldn't believe it.
For the championship race, and the fans are going crazy, and they're doing it for a reason.
31 years later, man, they're still playing that song.
Now carrying the team down the stretch, dishing and switching.
But if I can't because of some rights issues, what you should know is that he's the guy who created 31 years ago the Go New York, Go New York, Go song that has become the theme for the Knicks. If you don't live outside of New York, you may not have heard it, but you probably will soon. It's like the rally anthem. And it was formed by this guy who's an entrepreneur and former musician. It's become the song for the Knicks. And here's the interesting backstory. Jesse Itzler recorded the original rap and vocals in a small closet in his 300 square foot Manhattan apartment. He sold the song to the Knicks for $4,000, which was enough to cover his rent at the time. And the song went on to become a multi-decade phenomenon. He later teamed up with folks like Q-Tip and Mobb Deep and Angie Martinez. He went on to build and sell a major sports marketing company, and he's now a minority part owner of the Atlanta Hawks. A great story, a great comeback story. So Jesse Itzler and the Knicks and America, because trailing by 22 points with 8:19 left in the fourth quarter was the Knicks last night, but they came back to win. And trailing by 22 points is what it feels like in America right now sometimes. But the Knicks came back, and America can too. And I'm going to bring you the Five Eyes, our starting five lineup that brings you the energy and the intensity of a comeback, a Jalen Brunson-led comeback of independence, integrity, information, inspiration, and impact. And our guest coming up is going to bring that and then some. I am continuing my Meet the Independent Veteran Candidate series with Dr. Karen Matthews. She is really impressive, people. You're going to really like hearing from her. She's one of the most impressive independent voices we've heard in years. She's a Navy vet. She's a doctor. She served more than 20 years as a radiologist. She's worked in VA hospitals. She's been a business owner, and she is promising to bring back integrity to the good people of the 23rd District of California, which includes a really big VA hospital. It includes part of Fort Irwin, and it is not Los Angeles. It is more like a Reagan part of California than it is a Gavin Newsom part of California. But it might be the most important congressional race for the independent movement this year. And coming up, Karen Matthews is going to talk to you about how she is rising to the moment in this clutch moment, just like a Jalen Brunson for independence everywhere. She is that player. She's got the ball in her hands, but first she's passing it to me, and I'm going to pass it over to you. And we are all going to continue our comeback on this What the Fuck Wednesday, and stay vigilant. All right, today's top topic. Last night's primary results are huge, and they are an insight into the future. I think there's a failure of imagination. People see the stats on the board, they see who won and who lost, but I think they're missing the bigger picture, the bigger strategic element, because there's always a long game. And by now, if you don't know, you will now know that Ed Gallerin defeated Kentucky Representative Thomas Massie in the GOP primary for a House race in Kentucky. This is the most expensive race in a congressional primary in history, tens of millions of dollars, all kinds of dark money. Trump threw Pete Hegseth in there, which was crazy and nasty and unprecedented and unacceptable. But Kentucky's fourth. Ed Gallerin won 55-45, knocking out enemy of Trump, Tom Massie. Now, Gallerin was a vet, a Navy SEAL, retired, which I think is important, and Massie was not. And Massie lost. But maybe he won, because he's not going away. And he is now talked about all week long. I said this on CNN last night with Van Jones and S.E. Cupp and Aaron Burnett and others. We had a whole hour. And they were breaking this down, saying huge win for Trump, huge loss for Massie. And I think there's some truth to that. But there's a bigger opportunity, that Tom Massie is now a household name. He was before by leading the Epstein files, but now even more. Because by targeting him, Trump is elevating him. And Massie is talking about releasing the Epstein files, no war in Iran, no tariffs, and no Trump. That sounds like a pretty good presidential platform that could unite a lot of Americans. If he runs within the Republican Party and challenges Trump for the future of it, or whoever his successor is, or if he leaves the party. When Trump attacks you, it can also help fuel your rise. Ask Senator Mark Kelly. Ask Liz Cheney. Ask Adam Kinzinger. And now you can ask Tom Massie. Play this clip from last night, please, Chris.
What happens in 2028? You want? You want me to run for Congress again?
I'm telling you, I said it on CNN. He is not going away. And Trump targeting him for months has only grown his support nationwide. Play this other clip, please, Chris.
And we need basic decency. We need basic decency. That's what the Epstein Files Transparency Act was all about. By the way, today is the 6-month anniversary of the Epstein Files Transparency Act. We've taken out 24 CEOs, an ambassador, a prince, a prime minister, a minister of culture. And that was just 6 months. I got 7 months left in Congress.
Massie has been very effective in a bipartisan way, focusing on the Epstein Transparency Act, which has wide bipartisan support and very popular support all across America, from Republicans, Democrats, and especially independents. He's partnered with Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna, who's been a guest on this show. And I've asked if Ro Khanna could get Tom Massie to leave his party, he could leave his and start something entirely new. That's looking more and more possible by the day. And Massie's already testing some messaging about how popular it is to attack both parties and the status quo. Play this, please, Chris.
I'm not even sure that I'm bipartisan. Bi means you like both. I might be trans-partisan, because I can't identify with either some days.
Trans-partisan. It's a good line. Maybe 45% of us in America are trans-partisan. More and more by the day. Watch this space, folks. This is not over. It's just getting started. Stay vigilant. All right, also just getting started is Trump's fall. He continues to plummet, and there's new news that's perfect for What the Fuck Wednesday that I've got to focus on. It looks like the January 6th rioters, insurrectionists, let's call them that, because many of them were convicted of crimes, are going to go from prisons to pardons to payouts. That's the headline at the New York Times. Prisons to pardons to payouts. January 6th rioters are elated at Trump's $1.8 billion fund. Now there is a possibility that the people who led the insurrection, who trashed the Capitol, could get money from the government they attacked. This is so dastardly, disgusting, and outrageous. First, he pardoned them. Now he wants to pay them. He wants to reward criminality. He wants to reward opposition to legal protections. He wants to reward rebellion. And he wants to reward loyalty. They are ransacking the Capitol. They are ransacking our norms. They are ransacking the Treasury. And he's going from pardoning them to paying them. It's disgusting. And it's perfect for Whiskey Tango Foxtrot Wednesday. Play the song, Chris.
What the fuck Wednesday? What the fuck Wednesday?
All right, if you're explaining, you're losing. And Trump's explaining a lot, especially on gas prices in Iran. He keeps trying to tell people that it's not an issue. We're going to talk to Karen Matthews coming up, where in her part of California, gas prices have hit $6 a gallon. That national average, California is at the top of it. And that's not because of a lot of different reasons, but the bottom line is there's a lot of good people in California who are suffering. And if you're explaining, you're losing it. And they're all bad at it, but J.D. Vance is especially bad at it, and especially unlikable. Play this clip, please, Chris.
Was a doozy. Before I answer your question, I want to just observe there are different ways to ask a question, okay? You could just ask a question and try to get your answer, or you could do like a speech where you say, you know, Mr. Vice President, you're a terrible human being, and so is the president, and so is the entire cabinet. And then I'm like, what's your question? And then your question is, how dare you? Come on, man. Have a little bit of objectivity in the way that you ask these questions, because there were a lot of things in that speech masquerading as a question that didn't actually get asked, okay? Number one, the president doesn't sit at the Oval Office on his computer on his like Robinhood account buying and selling stocks. That's absurd. He has independent wealth advisors who manage his money. He is a wealthy person. He has had success in business. He's not making these stock trades himself. And your question imputes that. It doesn't say it exactly, but a reasonable person listening to that question would assume the president is sitting around and doing that. He's not.
He's such a liar. And he's just such a dick. I mean, on every single issue, and he's not helping Trump. He's not helping himself. He's helping Putin a bit, and he's probably helping Marco Rubio, who I think still has the inside track on the Republican nomination and the legacy of Trump without all of the baggage. But compare Rubio to J.D. Vance, and he looks almost tolerable. But J.D. Vance is so full of it, especially on Ukraine. And this is day 1537 of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. And Vance continues to betray Ukraine, continues to betray American values, and continues to betray the truth. Play this clip, please, Chris.
Why are you rewarding Putin and punishing your best ally in Europe?
Well, first of all, I'd say there's been no president who's done more, frankly, to ensure that Ukraine survived the invasion of Russia than Donald Trump. As he famously said, Obama gave him sheets, I gave him javelins, and it was those javelins that ensured that Ukraine still has its territorial sovereignty. What he's also said is that he wants to pursue an American policy that focuses on the interests of the United States.
There's no president who's done more to ensure Ukraine survived the invasion of Russia than Trump. It's just absolutely crazy. It's bullshit. It's spin. Do not believe a single thing that comes out of J.D. Vance's mouth. He is compromised. Ukraine continues to fight on, and it's through no help from Donald Trump. They can't even account for the $400 million that they were supposed to allocate from Congress, which is less than 1% of the overall defense budget. Vance is not standing with Ukraine. Vance is standing with Trump, and Vance is standing on the wrong side of history. But in Ukraine, the gloves are finally off. Zelensky continues to lead with integrity, lead with independence, and lead with power. Play that clip, please, Chris.
Цей місяць дав зміни в динаміці на нашу користь, на користь України. Більше зберігаємо позицій, більше завдаємо уражень. І особливо значний вплив наших далекобійних санкцій проти Росії. Сьогодні затвердив плани наших
Today he approved long-range capability plans for June. Good. We've talked about it on this show for years. We've covered Ukraine for years. And I've said they've exercised tremendous discipline, not hitting inside of Moscow, not hitting inside of Russia. But they did that with the oil refinery just a couple days ago, and they're going to turn it up. Good. break the back of Putin, break the back of their economy, because the future, the road to peace, goes over Putin's dead body or his removal. And the Ukrainian people are showing us the kind of comeback story we can all root for. They were down in the first quarter, and they are coming back in the late quarters, and they are helping us all stay vigilant. All right, watch the media space, folks. This is just a quick hit. But as I've said, Trump continues to wage war on the media, and the traditional corporate media continues to consolidate and move further to the right. PBS, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. This week, Stephen Colbert will be off the air. Tomorrow is his last night. Trump is winning his war on the free press. And there's another news item today that you need to track on. James Murdoch, the son of Rupert Murdoch, has bought Vox Media's podcast network for more than $300 million. That's New York Magazine. That's Vox. He left Fox News' board recently, but we know where his political allegiances lie. And it's an understanding that the podcast space, that the new media space is ripe for injection of capital. It's ripe for new leadership. It's ripe for consolidation, and it's ripe for further manipulation. I don't know which direction Murdoch's going to take Vox in. I welcome him on this show to have a discussion about it. But when it comes to the changes, and especially rich billionaires buying up our media, we all need to stay vigilant. All right, that includes on Iran. And we've got some positive news on Whiskey Tango Foxtrot Wednesday. The dam is breaking, and Trump is breaking it. He took out Senator Cassidy last week in Louisiana, and now Cassidy is paying him back. The Senate has advanced a resolution, finally, to block Trump on ordering more strikes in Iran. 4 Republicans now joined all but one Democrat, Fetterman, who is completely insane and corrupt and should be out of the Democratic Party. If you're ever not sure about how feckless the Democrats are, they can't handle John Fetterman. They can't get him in line. They can't get him on the same page. And I wouldn't be surprised if he left the Democratic Party and didn't declare his independence, but became a Republican. But they have finally advanced the War Powers Act, forcing Trump to end the war in Iraq. 4 Republicans have now broken ranks with their colleagues. That includes Senator Bill Cassidy, who lost his primary over the weekend. He could be the pivotal vote. You've also got Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Susan Collins in Maine, who's in a tough reelection campaign against Graham Pletner, the upstart Marine, and of course, Rand Paul of Kentucky, who, if Thomas Massie leaves the Republican Party or carves something new out of the Republican Party, watch Rand Paul, because he shares a lot of those libertarian values. But watch this space. It's been below the radar. All right. Also below the radar. We haven't talked about Senator Redneck in a while. I try not to, but there's some good news. Senator Redneck, Alabama's Tommy Tuberville, won't be a senator next year. Bad news. He'll be the governor. He won the Republican nomination for Alabama governor last night. He will face former U.S. Senator Doug Jones, who became the last Democrat to win a statewide race in Alabama during a special election in 2017, which is about the only way a Democrat can win a statewide race in Alabama. I think this is checkmate. Tommy Tuberville will secure this nomination and will secure the governorship, which in my view is bad news for Republicans, it's bad news for Alabama, and it's bad news for America. But at least his stupidity and racism and embarrassment will be limited to the poor state of Alabama. I'm sorry, Alabama. Maybe one day Charles Barkley will go home, run for office, and save you. But until then, especially in Alabama, stay vigilant. Our independent voices are coming from everywhere, and they can lead the way. We're still looking for those celebrities who can break through, the billionaires who can break through. In the meantime, we've got tons of veterans who are stepping up to lead the way, especially noteworthy, just less than a week before Memorial Day. So if you haven't made your Memorial Day plans, I encourage you to consider going silent for 1 minute on Memorial Day, wherever you are, at 1 o'clock Eastern, or pick a time that works for your family. Go silent and just recognize all the generations of fallen that have given their lives in defense of this country and for our freedom of all generations. Remember, Memorial Day is not Veterans Day. Veterans Day is for those who are alive. Memorial Day is for those we've lost. And veterans are rising to meet the challenge, especially independent veterans, because they know the Republicans have lost us. The Democrats have lost us. They are the true spoilers. And independents, especially among young people, are rising to meet the moment. We are the people's champion. We're not just moving the needle, we are the needle. And we've got a needle mover today, one who can help us break through. Last night, Jalen Brunson stunned the basketball world and showed what leaders can do. I'm going to talk more about that coming up. It's a sneak preview on my something good. But Jalen Brunson shows that leaders can make anything possible. They somehow figure it out, get together, grind, and inspire others. The Knicks can win on any given night because they've got Jalen Brunson. The Spurs can win tonight or on any given night because they've got Wembanyama. OKC has SGA. We see this across sports, but especially in politics. Look at Zelensky. Leaders are the difference. And they show you that there's nothing you can't do. Leaders step up. And we've got one today, another independent vet who is stepping up to take the big shot in the big moment, in the fourth quarter with the game on the line, to help America make the comeback. She's coming up right now, and she's going to help us all stay vigilant. Independent Americans around the country and around the world. This is an important time for leaders. I'm going to continue to bring them. I am Paul Rieckhoff. We are continuing our extended Meet the Independent Veteran Candidate series. Every week, I'm going to try to bring you a new leader that maybe you haven't heard of, but you need to know about. And we are continuing that this week with a leader, a powerful leader that I had the honor of meeting in New York just this week for the first time in person. And she impressed me even more than she did online and virtually in person. I think she's a rising, powerful voice that we all need to hear from. She's a Navy vet. She's a doctor. She graduated from medical school, went on to serve more than 20 years in the Navy as a radiologist. She's led medical teams, cared for troops and vets, and wore in the uniform, she says, because she believes America is more than a government. It's a promise we make to each other. She's now running in California's 23rd district for Congress, which is going to be a slugfest, but has an open primary coming up in just a couple weeks that will be key for her race, but for our larger movement that is continuing to grow. I'm very happy to welcome to the show the great and powerful Karen Matthews is here on Independent Americans. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here, and it's an honor to run for this office.
It was really great to meet you in person. We had so many vets here together, independent vets together in one room for the first time last week. And you know, you stood out. I could feel your energy and your commitment and your power. But let me start by asking you the same thing I ask everybody. Where are you and how are you?
I am in California. California's 23rd district is about 75 miles east of Los Angeles. Large district, mostly San Bernardino County. We have the mountains. We have Big Bear, Lake Arrowhead. We have the high desert with Victorville. We go down to Joshua Tree. So we are a diverse, great district, goes all the way to Nevada. And I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to June 2nd, which is the primary day. We've worked very hard. We have a lot of volunteers. We've been pushing the independent movement. 30% of the registered voters in this district are independent, non-party registered voters. So I think there is a ripe opportunity for folks who are looking for an answer other than the two parties. I personally believe that we're caught between a party that wants government to fail and a party that can't make government work. And I think we're feeling that on the ground and really looking forward to what comes next after June 2nd.
That's a really good line. And I you know, the good lines that I heard from different independent veterans, I hope you all will use each other's lines. Like I think Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson used to say they're going to write a song called Let's Sit Around and Steal Each Other's Songs. But I think, you know, you could tell somebody else's joke and it still works. But that's part of what we're seeing in our movement, right? Messaging and communication that is effective and crosses lines. But let me go back to your district. Your district is awesome. Like I've spent a lot of time in that area. Joshua Tree is one of my favorite places on earth. It feels like another planet. And maybe it is another planet compared to Los Angeles, right? I mean, it's very politically very different. And people think California, they think deep blue, they think Los Angeles. But your district is more complicated than that. And so are the issues there. Let's get right into it and let's go to the top topic, which I think is really your race as a bellwether or an indicator for what's happening more broadly. You are in a true open primary. Some have called it the jungle primary, which I think is kind of a slander. It just sounds bad.
Yeah.
and I think kind of slanders the independent movement. But it's as close to a fair playing field as you can get in an open primary, in a primary, right? In contrast to what we saw last night in Kentucky and Pennsylvania
Right.
and so many other places. But let's talk about your district and what it tells us about America and how it's different from a lot of what people might expect about California.
So my district is a working class district. It's not like what people think of when they think of coastal California or Napa, California, which are all great places. I visited, I love them. But California is very, very diverse. And you have a patch of California through the Central Valley down to where we are in California 23, which is very hardworking. A lot of folks work in Los Angeles and Orange County, but they live here because the cost of living is less. And I think what people don't understand about that with California is that it's pretty culturally conservative here. We have a lot of folks that are more libertarian minded, not as I don't want to really use the word elite, but more kind of elite, coastal, liberal, we live well and we want to tell you a little bit how to live. But people out there stumping it every day, they don't want people with money to tell them how to live. They just want a decent life. They want a home they can afford. They want, a vacation once in a while. They don't want to feel like they have the pressure all the time of counting pennies. They want to have health care that they can afford. They really just want what we used to think of as America in the 50s, is that neighborhood community of people sharing and kids playing together and not really having an aspiration of a private jet, just wanting to get by and live the American dream. So California is much more conservative than people think in this inner part.
Is your district more of a Ronald Reagan's California than a Gavin Newsom's California?
Oh, 100%. 100%. It's much more like that. Yeah.
And I mean, that provides a unique opportunity for you because I think you are an alternative, especially for Republicans who feel like the party's gone too far. But let me ask you, Karen, a question I ask everybody. I usually ask, who you are and why you're running for office. You really got into that already. But why are you an independent? And how do you define independent when you're out on the campaign trail?
So, it's interesting you asked that because I've actually been an independent since 2004. When I was young, coming up here in California, everybody I knew was Reagan. So I didn't know there was anything different. And as a young person, I didn't really think of politics that much. I thought of it more as what frankly some of the MAGA people may feel now. It was more of a community, and the community around me was all about Ronald Reagan, and it was about hope and change and coming out of the 70s with the gas lines and everything that was happening. So I kind of thought of myself like that. But as I got older and I started looking around and seeing what politics really was, I really wasn't interested in either party. Neither one seemed to represent me, even as a younger person. And to be honest, I graduated from med school in Loma Linda. I went to do my initial training at Maine Medical Center in Portland, Maine. And the governor in Portland, Maine at that time was Angus King. And I didn't even know there was an opportunity to be an independent. But Angus King really showed me that you can be an independent. You can have your own values. You don't have to be in a mushy middle. It doesn't mean you don't believe anything. It just means that you believe in getting something done and you don't believe in a party structure that has folks falling in line. And that, I thought it was a more way of, to be quite blunt about it, more independent thinking. So I did that in 2004, carried that throughout my military experience, even though I would say I'm a left of center person, but I am very pragmatic. I am not somebody who just thinks we need to promise the moon and just keep people coming towards us. What we need to do is actually deliver outcomes. We used to do that. Social Security and Medicare were put into legislation and put into practice in a very short period of time. Now we have, California is a great example of the high-speed rail. We promise things that are fantastic, things we need, things we pay taxes for, and then they don't actually happen. And I think people feel that. They're beaten down. They're tired of paying taxes. They're tired of promises from one side to the other side. And we just are on a pendulum of throw the bums out. And it's time for some folks who are pragmatic, roll up our sleeves, get things done, make it worth paying our taxes because we get something for it.
Independent Americans, I told you she was strong, right? I mean, this is what I'm talking about. And I think you're really hitting on some important tones, some important messages. I'm glad you brought up Angus King. He's been a guest on this show before. Last night I was on CNN, and now I credit CNN and Erin Burnett and her team. They don't just have me opposite the Republican or the Democrat. They have the Republican and the Democrat on one side. They have me on the other side with the journalist. And at one point, I like S.E. Cupp and respect her, but she says, independents can't win. And then there was a guy who's running for now governor of Georgia who just left the Republican Party. And he said, I had to run as a Democrat because you can't win. I think that's bullshit and it's wrong. And the facts don't prove it because we've got Angus King as governor. We've got Angus King as a senator. We've got Yemi Mobolade as a mayor in Colorado Springs. We've got Tim Kelly as a mayor in Chattanooga. We've got viable candidates all across the board. But congressional districts are hard. And when I hear you talk, I think this is an important race because it'll also show you off to the state. I think you're a viable and strong statewide candidate as well. And I hope that people consider you for that going forward. But let me ask you to talk about what you're running against and how you're running. You're running against a Republican incumbent. You're running against a Democratic challenger. Then there's a bunch of other folks. But you're in, the California nonpartisan primary, open primary that happens on June 6th. Can you talk about what kind of opportunities and challenges that presents for you as an independent candidate?
Yeah, I think, like I said, we're about a third in this district. So that already gives me pretty fertile ground to talk to people about and to connect with folks because they've already left both parties. The incumbent in this race is a Republican. He used to be a state representative as well. So he has a long history in politics. He calls himself a non-politician. But he has been in for a while, which always is an interesting way to frame yourself. He's pretty under the radar. People don't know of him. The one thing about my race is if you're running against someone who already has a strong name identity, there's already people who want to get them out of the office. So you tend to get a lot of attention, a lot of fundraising off of that. This is a very low profile race. He is not somebody who has name recognition. He is fairly wealthy, which I have no problem with, but he's very disconnected from the day-to-day existence of the folks in this district because they are not very wealthy. This is not a wealthy district. So he's the incumbent. This is his third cycle. I think he's sitting back feeling like he's got it in the bag because it's a culturally conservative district. He doesn't have to work for it. He doesn't do town halls. I hear this again and again and again. People don't hear from him. They don't feel like he's representing them. And I think the thing we forget is that it's called the U.S. House of Representatives. You're not going to Washington to buy a house in Washington to become an elite, ruler of the people back home, to look at national interests versus local interests. The whole way this was set up was we're supposed to be representatives. We're supposed to go represent what's unique about our district and fight for that. Not just capitulate to whatever the national narrative is and tell our folks back home, you're just going to have to swallow it. So that's the incumbent. There are a few Democrats that are not particularly, and I don't know all the ins and outs because I'm not a Democrat, but from what I see, they are not supported by the Democratic Party. The Democrats have given up on this district. I happen to come from a belief that you cede no ground. You don't just give up in a fight. You have to fight for every piece of soil you can. And this is a winnable district with California's primary setup, which, as you said, is a top two. Doesn't matter who you are. An independent is not a spoiler. If you get the second highest percentage of the votes, you go on to the general. It's just whoever can win, whoever convinces folks. So the two Democrats, they seem like very nice folks. They don't have any name recognition. They're new to this. They haven't raised a lot of money. They don't have a lot of support from the Democratic Party writ large. And the Democrats here that I talk to are tired of losing. And they understand and this is kind of a double-edged sword. Some people embrace it, some people don't. But the D is a little toxic in this district. And I don't think that's unusual for other districts where we've gotten so partisan, we're in such a two-team sort of dynamic that you just cannot imagine yourself crossing over. But I give people permission to vote for something other than the D and other than the R. So you're not betraying your kind. You're just crossing over and being pragmatic with a new movement that says, we want to get things done. We understand that we have this two-party system, but now they're crippling us and we're caught in between them. And I think when people say, but independents can't win, they're not really paying attention to what's happening on the ground with the generation behind me. They do not like either party. There's a saying that I heard many times at the Pentagon when people were talking about where we would go with modernizing healthcare IT. And they said, don't look at where we are, and look at where the puck is going to be. And I'm not a real sports fan, but I understand the analogy. And I think with independence, you have to look at where the puck is going to be. And the puck is going to be outside the two parties.
I love that. I love that. It's so true. Perfect for Stanley Cup playoff time. But also talking about the incumbent J.L. Bernolte, he says he's not a professional politician, but he's been a politician for most of his life, for more than he's also, I think, a video game designer, but not a veteran. And you are in a unique position where there are, a lot of veterans. There are a lot of student veterans. There are retirees, right? Folks like to retire in your area. Southern California, and California has the highest concentration of veterans, one of the highest concentrations in the country. We've got California, we've got Northern Virginia, you've got Texas, places like that. But California is ripe, I think, especially for a veteran. Can you talk about what it's like to enter with your veteran status? You're coming in and talking to folks and you're saying, I'm an independent, but you're also a veteran. And you mentioned a little bit about your military experience, but why that helps you differentiate yourself from these other candidates.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting district because we not only have one of the best VAs in the country, which is Loma Linda, the Jerry L. Pettis Loma Linda VA Medical Center and outlying clinics, which to me it's phenomenal. And I think I have an expertise in that because I went to medical school in the 90s from Loma Linda University is where I graduated, and we did rotations at the Jerry L. Pettis VA, and it was not nice. It was not great. I have stories I won't tell, but they weren't. I was very disappointed and thought, this is VA. This is terrible. But coming back now as someone who is a beneficiary of that, I go to the VA and I find it to be modern and really upgraded. And I talk to a lot of veterans who depend on that VA and really are grateful to have it. So we have a high veterans concentration here, but we also have active duty. We have Fort Irwin in Barstow. Now, with the redistricting, there is a lot of little jagged lines. It's kind of crazy, but we did have 29 palms as well. Before the redistricting, we had a straight line across and had 29 palms. So I feel uniquely positioned to be able to talk to folks who are active duty in the sort of penumbra of active duty, a lot of government workers who've been working for the Department of Defense for a long time and and a lot of those are veterans, as you know. You serve in the military and then you come back and you serve the military, even if you're not in uniform. And I feel like I've been able to really galvanize some of the veteran community. I've plugged in and had some town halls at VFWs. And it's, if you've been in uniform for a long time, even medical, we're staff, but you get used to that feeling and that camaraderie and that organization. And it's so, you can just exhale when you're around folks who have also been in uniform because you have an unspoken understanding with each other that you don't always have with the civilian sector. And so I feel very blessed to have a lot of veterans and, an active duty component in my district.
Veterans, if you're not supporting Karen and you live in this district, you're crazy. I mean, you're talking about a person who's worked at the VA, who's served in uniform. You have such an important military district. I mean, this is a really great example of where veterans can help you and also spread the word within the veterans community in that powerfully viral way that we can to help you compensate for the lack of money and infrastructure you have. And I think it's such an important race because I think if people were able to compare you side by side against the incumbent, the difference is so clear. And you do have the Democrats that you can differentiate yourself against too. That's why I think your race is so important. I think it maybe is the most important congressional race that we have because it's also an unusually fair playing field. A lot of these congressional races are locked, right? There's not even an open primary where independents can have a voice. So let's let's move below the radar on California, which I think is so important. You're well versed on this now. We've been covering this on the show. Last night we saw what happened to Tom Massie in Kentucky. But Californians can decide 9 out of the 10. I'm taking this from independent voters. 9 of the most competitive races in the state, but only if they show up. Right? An independent voter analysis breaks down the June 2nd primary races where no party preferences voters now outnumber the margin of victory in recent contests in Silicon Valley, Central Valley, Bakersfield, South LA. In one Bakersfield district, SD 16, the incumbent won her last race by 13 votes. I mean, this is how close it can be. In Josh Hoover's Sacramento area assembly seat, independents make up 21% of the electorate in a district that's flipped 3 times in the last decade. And in SD 10, the Silicon Valley race, there are nearly twice as many independents as Republicans on the ballot. So this is a big moment, I think, for our movement. California is in your race, but all across the state. And I'm issuing a call to arms. I mean, this is the biggest moment this summer, I think, for our independent movement to show not just California, but what the rest of the country can look like. So June 2nd is about so much more than just California. It's about our democracy. It's about our independent movement. But give us your perspective, Karen, on the ground about why, your race in particular in this state, in this primary is so much bigger than just your area.
So, it's interesting because when I talk to folks on the ground, one of the things that I say to them, because people like to feel like there's something bigger than themselves. They like to feel like they're part of change. And part of hopelessness is when you feel like you can't change anything. And I've been talking to folks and telling them, California 23, little old forgotten California 23, will make history and be on everybody's mind if we send an independent up against the incumbent. If we buck the primaries and go forward, we are part of something larger, but we can be leaders in it. And that excites people. They want to be part of something where they made a change. They're part of the conversation. They're not forgotten anymore. And I think that is giving people permission to be part of the movement is helpful. They're not just seeing something happen, but they're participating in something that is happening. And whether they're Democrats, Republicans, I talk to a lot of disaffected Republicans who have become independents or who want to become independents, and a lot of, like I said, Democrats who have very progressive values, but they're tired of losing and want to make progress. They want to get something done on healthcare, on wages, on prices, on housing, all of these things that are elemental to our lives. And so I believe we can be part of a movement, like you said. We just have to move the ball forward. We don't have to get through the goal line right now, but we have to show what's possible. And what's possible is that, especially in a state like California with open primaries, we can lead the way. We can show the other states what can happen when you open up your primaries, when you have ranked choice voting, when you do things that give you more choice. And we say we want more choice, but then we don't. We lock it down. And in California, we have more choice. So I'm a big advocate. I say it's democracy at work, and California 23 can lead the way.
I love it. And I want to just appeal directly to Democrats and Republicans that your vote really doesn't matter if you vote for the Democrat and Republican here. I mean, it's assumed, right? And this is a chance for Democrats and Republicans especially to be empowered. And for independents, I mean, this is the most powerful vote you may have. I mean, I think the Independent Voter Network, a senator said it was like 3-to-1 ROI versus a normal vote. But for all those folks who say, oh, my vote doesn't matter. This is an example of where your vote matters so much more than people who don't vote. And if you stay home, your vote is neutralized. But if you do come out and vote, and especially if you vote for the independent, this is really going to move the needle. And we don't have to get you to win it. We just got to get you to be number 2, right? You don't have to outrun everybody. You just, you can't be last when the shark is coming, right? You don't have to be first. You just can't be last. And the shark is coming for everybody except the top 2. So I really want to encourage everybody, full court press, like get behind Karen, get her on the ballot, give her a head-to-head challenge against this incumbent, show why the primary system works, and then also show how she can win. Because once it's one-on-one, I mean, it's anybody's game. He's trying to ignore you. He's hoping you'll go away, but we got to make that difficult. Karen, let me ask you one thing we haven't talked about, 2 things. We haven't said Iran, and we haven't said Trump.
Yep.
Both are extremely unpopular and fallen like a rock, with gas prices, especially with people seeing all this money spent overseas. It feels like your district in particular is going to be really important to understand how people are feeling about Iran and or Trump. Can you talk about those two and maybe combine pieces?
Yeah. So I will start with Iran. And it's funny you say that, because when I've done some house parties and some town halls, I usually talk about where we are in sort of a macro way in this country, and then where I see we can go. And I haven't really focused on some of those things that are Democratic talking points, talking about Trump, talking about what he's doing. But I always get asked. And so we spend a lot of time talking about it. One of the first thoughts I had when I heard we went into Iran was, we are traumatizing a whole new generation. We went through it with Iraq and Afghanistan, and we lived it for 20 years. And we've watched, as medical, I've watched that come through. As you mentioned, I also had a small business where we did disability physicals for transitioning service members and veterans. And I saw it. We did the physicals, we talked to them, we went through their medical records, we tried to make sure that they had every opportunity for the benefits they deserved. And the thought that we would go in without a clear objective and subject these young folks, these military folks who raised their hand, to a whole new generation of a war that we don't really know why we're there, how we're going to get out, what our objective is heartbreaking to me. And so that's kind of the overview I see of it. Again, if you're going to go to war, know why you're going, know why you're committing blood and treasure, and know what the objective is to exit and declare victory. And we have not done that, and that's unconscionable. The second thing is tying it with Mr. Trump. There are a lot of folks in my district who support Mr. Trump, who really believe in him, but can't afford to get to work right now because gas in California is over $6 a gallon. And you can talk about all sorts of reasons why, with taxes and this and that, and California's higher than this state or that state. But the bottom line is that the water went up. Whatever's on top is on top, but the baseline is higher now because of Mr. Trump and because of what we've done in Iran. And I think that when you look at it, the Strait of Hormuz was open before we went in. Now we've made a mess of it, and our objective is to get back to square one. And it's not going to happen quickly. Even if we did that today, people would still be feeling it. Like I said earlier in the interview, people buy houses in California 23 because it's more affordable. They want a yard for their kids. They want a neighborhood that their kids can grow up in. So they buy homes here, but they still work in Los Angeles and Orange County, which means gas is very important. So at the most, base level, the price of gas going up is tied to Mr. Trump in this war, and it's really impacting the folks in my district.
Everybody take notes, because how Karen is talking about this stuff, I think, is very important. She's a person who's connected to the community. She has incredible lived experience. She's obviously a tested leader. Karen, I may have said this to you when I met you in person, but you're the kind of leader we've been waiting for in this movement. And when a leader like you steps forward, we got to have your back. And I just hope that everyone will do that. And the next couple of weeks are critical. Independent Veterans America was proud to endorse you last week. We're endorsing new folks every couple of days, but we wanted to really try to amplify your story because it's so important to your community, to the veterans community, to the independent movement, and just to the guts of our country. So you're one of the many people I've said, I don't care how this race goes. I hope you don't go away. And if Tom Massie decides to jump in and start something new, he should take notes from you, because the way you're communicating and the earnestness you have about everything is really, really important. All right, well, I'm going to go to something good, and then I'm going to throw to you. We always end the show with something good. I'm going to go totally East Coast over here, but on a similar theme.
Something good, something sweet. Feel the fire.
Last night, the NBA playoffs continue to dazzle. I mean, these games have been bonkers. Folks, even if you're not a basketball fan, don't miss them because it's so fun and it's a great distraction from all the madness of our politics. But the Knicks were down by like 20 in the fourth quarter, came back in overtime to win 115-104. And look, they've been awesome lately, but there's also been some times throughout this year when they looked out of rhythm, when they looked tired, except for Josh Hart, bad fouls, Towns disappears way too often. But we still have Jalen Brunson. And I think it's a reflection of how much leadership matters. During the game, he was in the huddle, cranking up his team. You saw a leader rise to the moment. And that's what you're seeing in so many of these independent candidates. They were down. But with a leader like Jalen Brunson, he makes anything possible. And I've seen few players tougher than him, more clutch. He's our king of New York City because he embodies us all. And I think this year is different. They somehow figure it out and get it together and they grind. But we are in every single game because of Jalen Brunson, and he shows us there's nothing you can't do and that you should never give up. So I'm going to say, let's go Knicks. I'm so excited. The city's so excited. But again, it's bigger than basketball. I think we saw what real leadership can do. I encourage you to keep watching this young man because he is something good. All right, Karen, you're something good. But I'm going to throw it over to you. What do you got on this day that's something good?
So nothing as exciting as a basketball game because I'm a sports fan, but I'm a baseball fan and we're just getting ramped up. So I haven't been as engaged, but we were very invested in the Dodgers last year. And so it was great to see them win. I will say growing up, my National League team absolutely was the Dodgers. I was glued to the Dodgers when I was growing up. But for some reason, I got hooked on the Red Sox. And then when I moved to Maine, I really got into the Red Sox. So people tell me that that's a betrayal of my home. But I say I can have.
We were getting along so well, Karen. We were getting along so well.
I can have an American League team and I can have a National League team. And that's who I have. So but I think something good for me is just the energy that I feel around the independent movement and coming out this last weekend and the function that you had where we got to be in a room with our cohort. I felt like it was just a breath of fresh air for us to be able to connect with each other, to talk with each other, to hear where we're coming from, and to sort of knit together this country across from California to Mississippi to Montana to Chicago to everywhere that we are and realize that we still are one country. It's really hard sometimes because we feel like we're splitting apart a little bit. But when you start talking to other folks that are like-minded who are driving a new direction for the country, it gives energy and it gave me a renewed sense of purpose. And then coming home, and I've talked to a lot of young people here. And people say young people don't vote. And I remember when I was young, I didn't vote all the time either, so I can't throw stones. But they feel it. They feel that their future is in danger and they are coming together. So something good for me is I have hope that there is a community out there that I can connect to. And there are folks that are coming along with us. And we're building a movement that will grow stronger, regardless of what happens in 2026. We're not going away. It's not a fluke. And I think it's going to make America stronger.
You are making America stronger. You are something good. You're doing something great. And our movement is bringing together even Red Sox and Dodgers and Yankee fans, right? That's what this movement can
Yankees,
do.
no.
Yeah.
No.
Well, we'll work on that part. But look, Karen, you are the heart, you are the brain, you are the toughness. You're bringing it all. You're the complete package. And I really, really appreciate the fortitude and the integrity you've been bringing to this race. The way you talk about things. You're also bringing a really important civility and tone that I think is an example for our kids. I always want to amplify and talk about leaders who are setting the right tone for our kids and, a tone that our enemies will respect and think twice about trying to cross. So that's you. Everybody should support Karen. I'll have a link to your campaign in the show notes. Everybody should donate, volunteer, do what you can. And right now, the next 2 weeks, I'm going to do a promo here. The next 2 weeks is critical. I know you're thinking, November is far away. Like if we get Karen on the ballot in the next 2 weeks, then it busts it open. We got a player on the field. We're in this game. And then it really gets exciting. So pour it all out, empty the tank, help Karen Matthews win in California, not just for the people there, but for all of us. Karen, I really appreciate your time and your energy. I hope you'll check back with us after you get on that ballot after the primary and you keep giving them hell out there.
Thank you.
All right, folks, the great Karen Matthews, the latest in our Meet the Independent Candidate series. We've got the fighters. They need the fuel. Help her out, and let's help her win this thing. Stay vigilant, folks.
Thank you.
All right, my thank you to Karen Matthews. Check out her link in the show notes. Check out more information, independentveteransofamerica.org. If you want to run like Karen, join us. We're looking for you. We're looking for 100 that we could elevate, amplify, and support this fall. I'm hearing from more and more of them every day. A quick media note, I was on CNN last night. My thanks to Erin Burnett for again doing something very important. For the entire hour, she didn't put me opposite the Republican or the Democratic pundit. She put me opposite both of them. You had Van Jones for the Republicans. You have for the Democrats. You had S.E. Cupp, who's traditionally a Republican, now is an independent, and me. And then Armstead from New York Times was on the left. He is an independent journalist. But it's really important to celebrate the media that gets it right. And Erin Burnett and her producers at CNN get it right. They give me equal airtime to talk about what independents are thinking and how broken our primaries are. So my thanks to them. Today, 3 o'clock Eastern, I will be on again with Connell McShane. If you don't watch News Nation, check it out. Also on our YouTube page, I always post my weekly segments with Connell McShane, who also focuses on independence. He gives rise to this show. We talk about national security and politics. I wish we could talk about the Knicks, but we won't. And then tomorrow, Thursday afternoon, usually in the 2 or 3 o'clock hour, I talk to Katie Tur about the latest in news and politics. We're daily now. We hit 15 on the news podcast charts, so help us keep this going. We are driving the comeback for America. Also, check out the Morning Independent, TMI. It's hitting your inboxes now. For those of you that have signed up, it's free, and it's awesome. It's your daily brief. Get rid of the corporate and traditional media, the partisan media. Get TMI from us every morning. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening, especially if you're watching on YouTube. Give me comments on YouTube. Let me know what you think of Karen Matthews. I may bring her back for a Q&A in the days to come, along with some other recent guests. But America's divided. But America is moving forward. We are on the comeback. I do believe it. We're down big, but we can make the comeback just like the Knicks did, down 22 last night. If you're among the 45% of Americans who are independent, 10,000 more every single week, this is your show. If you watched the primaries last night and you were pissed off about the results and about being squeezed out, declare your independence and invite others to do the same, especially in Karen's district in California, especially all across California, as we get to that big June 2nd open primary, maybe the biggest day for independence in the last few years. Country over party, people over politics, light over heat, challenging the status quo and fueling a comeback for America that spans all across our society. That movement is growing. Hope, never give up that hope. You saw that, Knicks fans, last night, is the oxygen of democracy. If you enjoyed this episode with Karen Matthews and all of our independent veterans, share it far and wide. Invite others to declare their independence, especially in California and in the other states where we featured veterans from Chicago, from Idaho, and from all across this country. And especially just a couple days before Memorial Day, invite others to declare their independence. And stay vigilant, my friends, because eternal vigilance is the price of freedom. I know you're not alone in your vigilance. We're all vigilant, and we're all in this together. I hope Karen confirmed that for you, that you are on a team with a leader who's meeting this moment. I'm your host, Paul Rieckhoff. Thank you for tuning in to Independent Americans. I will see you tomorrow. Happy Hump Day. Let's keep coming back, and let's stay vigilant, America.
He tells me the left and right are dreams for those without a clue. And when you wake, it's time to grow. And it's not cool to believe in school, but if I can say one thing, I've seen the children of the revolution and the good trouble they can bring. He says the red and blue are dead and independent is an attitude. An island in the sea of rhetoric and archipelago. He tells me the left and right are dreams for those without a clue. And when you wait, it's time to grow.
Powered by Righteous Media.